Manoj Bajpayee, such a pleasure to have you here in London. How are you?
Oh, very well. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
It seems like every film you do has such a legacy, and whether that be mainstream commercial cinema or whether it be your more alternative films like your Kashyap and Mehta films, you seem to have found a way to kind of strike big with every single one. Is that a planned kind of agenda that you have? Is there any kind of method to the madness when it comes to the roles you pick?
If the madness doesn't have any method, then you'll end up in a lunatic center. Okay, so it has to have some kind of a method. Yes, you're right. Earlier, I wanted to balance it out this way, but the wait used to be very, very long. 20 years back when I got my first recognition with a cult film called Satya, where Anurag Kashyap was one of the two writers, and he was very young, and that was the time which kind of tested our patience. The good films were very hard to come by. The wait used to be very, very long, but now things have changed. The whole platform of independent cinema has become very big and quite strong, and they are representing so well all across the world. So I have too many new directors, approaching me with great scripts. So this is the time to be part of such a big movement. At the same time, to get some kind of credibility, market credibility, I have to do those mainstream films and choose them very carefully.
Well, where did that courage come from 20 years ago? You knew when you entered the Hindi film space that you didn't have the conventional face, you didn't have the conventional kind of method to your acting that the other kind of big, over-the-top, loud action stars had at the time. Where did that conviction come from to still give it a go?
Okay, so when your journey is very long, and you come prepared to a city like Mumbai. I didn't come to Bombay without learning anything. I didn't land up in Mumbai straight away from my village. I took a very different route.
You went to Delhi?
I went to Delhi. I went to Delhi. That was my plan. It was a plan which was not told to anybody. A 17 and a half years old young boy already had a plan in his mind that he will go to Delhi, finish his graduation. Meanwhile, he'll do theatre, learn English, learn good Hindi and Urdu, and do theatre. So it was all planned. There were certain plans which couldn't work out. One of them was, getting into National School of Drama. I kept on getting rejected.
Really?
Yeah. So going back...
They regret that now?
No, I regret it. I will always regret that. I couldn't be part of such a highly reputed drama school. Wanted to come to RADA, but I couldn't afford it. My father, I could only take a loan from my father, but he didn't have money to give that loan to me.
Sure.
So yes. But I compensated it outside by doing theatre with all the national school graduates outside the school. I used to use their libraries, their resources quite a lot, and I was friends with all the students who were inside the National School of Drama. So I was always trying to match up with their skill all the time. So going back was never an option for me. I left my village. I still remember when a friend of mine came to fetch me to take me to a nearby small town for my bus, which to go directly to Patna. He said, so if nothing happens, you can always come back to the village, Manoj, so don't worry. I said, I'm not going to Delhi or Bombay thinking that I'm going to come back.
Sure.
I think this is the last time I have a sense that this is the last time I belong to this place.
Wow.
And after this, I'll never feel that I belong to this place.
When you were in Delhi, interestingly, your paths crossed with someone who we've spoken about before. You and I spoke on the phone, I think around the time Aligarh came out. And we spoke about how when you were in Delhi, you were in drama school with Shah Rukh Khan.
No, not in drama school. With Barry John.
With Barry John,
yes,
of course.
Shah Rukh was there, and Shah Rukh was there for a very brief time. But yes, we kind of connected quite a lot.
But your paths crossed at that point. You knew his family well as well at that point. And now, 20 years on, you've worked with him in films as well, like Veer-Zaara, but 20 years on, your careers are in very different places and with equal amount of respect. You know, the films that you've garnered respect for are in a very different space to the films that he's garnered respect for. But you made that decision that you didn't want to go down that kind of mainstream commercial route. You chose to stick by your conviction that you wanted to do a particular kind of role. Were you never tempted to go for the more mainstream stuff when you began?
You know, I always felt that, you know, either you become a prime minister of a country like India or America, or if there is any chance that you may fail there, you should go for a country like Mauritius and become the prime minister there. So I chose to be. I knew my disadvantages.
And what were your disadvantages?
The disadvantages were all the things which were being pointed out. That I was not a conventional looking guy.
But Shah Rukh's not a conventional looking guy.
No, he is. Don't ask.
Many people would say he's not conventionally.
Thing is, Shah Rukh was a charmer.
Yeah.
You know, when he was working with us, I could easily see that, you know, people used to give us second, third look. You know, and they never like to sit with us or have a conversation with us. But Shah Rukh used to be surrounded by all the you know, fellow theatre workers all the time.
Right.
You know, so I always say one thing with loads of fun, that, you know, all the great talents were left alone and found smoking alone in some corner, while Shah Rukh with no role used to be surrounded by everybody. So that's the charm he used to have. So he was a born star. And I'm more than anybody, I think I'm very, very happy that he's achieved everything. Because I, as a friend, like many friend of his, know exactly what he has sacrificed, what he's lost before becoming a big star.
You know, if we talk about your mainstream career as well, yes, Satya was seen by a large amount of people, but I remember internationally, and certainly here in the UK, the film that I felt that your presence was recognised the most was Pinjar, actually, in 2003.
Yeah.
And that film was touching, and it was hard to watch at times, and it was, your character had so many layers and shades, and that, for me, was a role that was made for you. Do you remember your experience of making that film? And also, do you remember the reaction you got to that role?
Oh, I got my second national award. Okay, those were the days when national awards were without any controversy, you know. So I really cherish those moments, you know. National awards for Satya and Pinjar. These are the awards which you'll always see in my place whenever you visit. Rest of the awards I always hide. So, but Pinjar was a tough role, because the character starts on a negativity, and the audience immediately starts hating him. And that's the journey of the character, from being a person who is a villain to a person who is, throughout the film, he's looking for redemption for one big mistake that he has made in his life, and to get him to by the end of it, to win over the heart of Urmila, the character of Urmila, and also the audience, was quite a tough task.
Yeah.
You know, it's not for that you really need to be alert, prepared, and skilled. So I used all my skill, you know, when I was doing that role. I still remember for each and every scene, I used to run back to my vanity band just to, you know, consult my script all over again, you know, going 10 scenes before the scene, 10 scenes after the scenes, finding the right graph, right way to perform. So yes, it was difficult. Each and every scene, each and every shot was something, you know, bigger challenge for me than anything else.
You know, at that time, you mentioned Pinjar and the roles and the complexities of that character, but actually Zubeidaa for me was another man who was flawed in many ways. You know, this is his second wife. He's not ashamed of having Rika already at home, who he's not very emotionally attached to. how did you justify your characters to yourself?
Right.
How did you as an individual justify the actions of a man and make them convincing?
Zubeidaa was difficult because I've never experienced that world. I've never known any royalty.
And you were so brilliant in it as well.
Before doing that film. So the only source of research was Mr. Shyam Benegal, and we were just talking, and he said one thing very, very pertinent. He said, Manoj, no matter how much you pretend to be playing him, but one thing you have to be very clear, that this man, these princes, when they are born, since that time, till their death, they only see people from outside bowing down their head. They don't know anything better. So create that imagery in your mind that you don't know anything. You don't know how to bow down to, in front of anybody else.
Yeah.
So that's the mental zone I had to get. And Mr. Shyam Benegal helped me quite a lot with that role. He used to be like a school teacher, before every shot. He made it possible for me. He made it easy for me when I was doing it.
With that role, the reason why I ask you that is because I often think if your character is 100% evil, dark, menacing, then at least you're in that zone throughout. But when you're doing a film where the character has a sense of redemption, or certainly has a character arc where some of his actions are good and some of his actions are flawed, is that harder?
It's actually that's how I relate to any character. That's how That's how I want to choose my characters. If the characters don't have various shades to it, they look completely unrelatable to me. I have to know those characters. When I'm reading a script, no matter how great the character is, if it is not relatable, it will not work. I will not be able to. If there is no place of gray shade, then it's very difficult to find relatability with the character.
So then what about something like Veer-Zaara then? How do you find...
Yeah, Veer-Zaara is a very good question, I would say. Veer-Zaara, I had to find that grey shade in him.
Because he's...
if you're looking at Veer-Zaara's story, if you're looking at it from Shah Rukh's character's point of view, he's a bad guy. But if you're looking at Veer-Zaara's story from this person's point of view, so he's not wrong. He's somebody who's into politics. He's somebody who comes from a very powerful family. He's somebody who is already engaged to this girl, and this girl has never said no to this engagement.
Yeah.
Now she's engaged. So his family's reputation is at stake.
I'll never forgive your character, though. Your character should have told Preeti that Shah Rukh was still alive. I think, your character... Did you not question Mr. Yash Chopra at the time and say, why can he not go and just tell Zara that Veer is still alive?
Yeah, this is what he tells him in the last scene.
Eventually.
He says one very important thing. I still remember that, and that became the main element of my characterization. That what do you think that you'll come to my place? Fall in love with my fiancé, and you'll go away, and I will not do anything. So this is height of courage, height of stupidity on your side. So since you've done it, since Zara wants you to be alive, I'll keep you alive. I'll not kill you. Okay, yeah. But for my own sake, for my own reputation, you will have to be, put in some corner where nobody comes to know about you. That's the only option he was left with.
And that's how you explain the character to yourself as well. Yes. Amazing. So that's the kind of the motive that you found in the script.
See, at the end of the day, every person who, you may think he's bad or good, but every person has their own motivation. Sure. Every person has their own reasons for doing anything that they're doing. Okay.
So at that point in 2004, Manoj, your career was just going up and up and up and up, and you were getting mainstream roles, or you were getting roles in mainstream films, and you were also doing alternative films at the same time. But I feel like in the mid-noughties, so around 2005, there seemed to be a shortage of films that were good enough for you to display your talent in. When I see a Manoj Bajpayee doing a Bit of a for example, I wonder whether you wholeheartedly wanted to do a film like that.
All right. That's a great question. See, the thing is, that was the time, that was a lull time. when suddenly those films stopped happening, and films were very hard to come by. The Pinjars and the 1971, all of those films that I was part of, they didn't do wonders on the box office. So the mainstream filmmakers, they also started shying away from me. Sure. And somewhere they were scared of touching Manoj Bajpayee, because in India, the industry is very box office oriented. Okay, so I was losing the credibility of this actor who has any hold over the box office. So yes, that magic was going away, because I have chosen a very, very different path of doing Zubeidaa and, Shul and Kaun and, 1971 Road, Pinjar, all of these films. And all of those films were not, making enough money for the producers. Though they were in profit, but still that was not good enough for the trade people. So yes, I started, the offers were very hard to come by. I had very little to choose from. At the same time, I was hell-bent on buying a place for myself.
Yeah, I mean, one of the conversations we had a couple of years ago, you said that, you have to sometimes do films just to put bread on the table,
yes,
essentially.
You have to, and because your choice of doing something or not doing something is completely yours. It's a very selfish choice. But at the end of the day, my family is there. I have to put, I have to maintain, I have to pay up all the bills, which is there right in front of me. I have to get food on the table. I have to maintain my household. Yes, there are some compromises you make, but but definitely I would say it one thing with great pride, that those are very few compromises that I have made in my career.
That lull that you mentioned didn't last that long, and if we fast forward a few years, the film I want to talk about is Raajneeti, because to be part of such a big ensemble, firstly, and to make such a mark with your performance is not an easy task. When you read that script, as an actor, did you see that as a daunting task? When you're with Nana Patekar, and I know Ranbir was new at that point, but he still had talent. He was still talented at that point. When you're with all these other people, do you ever wonder about where you'll be able to make your presence felt?
Okay, so when I read the script, I spoke to Mr. Prakasha as to which role he wanted me to play. He never told me. So he said there is a role which was eventually played by Arjun Rampal. So that time Arjun was not decided.
This was the older brother's role.
Yeah. So either you choose that or you choose this role that I have eventually played. So it's up to you. So I'm giving this option to you. I mean, you have to choose it from. I chose this role that I have played. And he kept on asking me. He said, "No, I think you should do that role. Why you should be choosing this role?" But I somewhere, realized that, I can contribute a lot to this role. Somewhere I felt that, Duryodhan is always made this, monster sort of a guy. And this is a chance for me to make him look like a human being who've always felt that he's been wronged by his cousins or by his uncle. And that was a challenge I have taken. I think I have succeeded also.
I think you were just absolutely brilliant in that film.
Thank you.
And all the films that I've mentioned till now have all worked. They've either worked with critical acclaim or they've worked with commercial success. They've all worked.
Right.
What do you do though when you trust a director's vision and you trust a script and you put so much time into it and it doesn't work? And I'm talking more recently, there was a film you did with Double called Missing.
Yeah.
And from the trailer, it looked really good.
No, it's a very good film. It's a very, very good film.
But the critics didn't all agree. Yeah. The critics were very divided with that film. Yeah,
I mean, it's up to you. I mean, as a creative person, I have the liberty of agreeing or disagreeing with the critics of a particular film. I have that liberty because somewhere, the understanding that I have of performances, of doing, of watching some great performances, they may, we may agree or disagree with a reviewer, or there are 3 reviewers or 4 reviewers. I have that liberty because I'm an actor.
But isn't it disheartening though, when you put time and effort into a film that you think is going to go somewhere?
No, it's not heartbreaking. It's all part of the process.
Right.
It's all part of the process. I mean, no matter what a critic says, but today, when Missing is on the digital platform.
Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime Video.
Yeah, and it's trending.
Yeah.
You know, it's trending, and it's the response is all over the digital platform, everywhere, you know, on social media. So you just go ahead and see the kind of response, you know, audience is giving. I'm looking for that, you know. There are few of them not liking it also at the same time. But, you know, when we start talking about a performance, let's talk about A particular shot or B particular shot. Let's talk about the graph. Let's talk about the consistency. Let's talk about the characterization. Just saying good or very good or not so good is not important. For me, what is important that somebody comes to me and start talking about my process.
Absolutely.
Start talking about the consistency. Start talking about as to how I have prepared the characterization for that a particular role. And I think missing is a very, very difficult role for any actor.
So going back, because I came very close to just now with missing, that was this year. But in 2012 and 2014, I think Aligarh, when did Aligarh? 2014, I think it was.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so in the space of 2 years, you had Gangs of Wasseypur and you had Aligarh. Right. And you received immense praise for both roles. So different. They're like on opposite ends of the scale. But when Kashyap came to you with that script, he actually envisaged a 7-hour epic. Because when it was showcased at Cannes, it was showcased as one full piece, wasn't it? I believe. So when you, I know you take risks. I know you're happy to take risks. But when a filmmaker comes to you with a script and says, I'm making a 7-hour long film, surely alarm bells start ringing in your head.
Yeah. With Anurag, the alarm bell never rings. Okay. Believe me. And with Anurag, you know, if you know him personally, I know him since the time he was 22, 23. He's always been very unpredictable. And his unpredictability has always been his strength. That much I was very, very sure that this guy is unpredictable, and he's the only guy in the world who will always be successful if he remains unpredictable. You know, and this is what reflects in his creation, especially in Gangs of Wasseypur, and in the manner he has directed the film, in the manner he has told his story. Yeah. And that is why the belief and conviction in Anurag Kashyap is such, from me as an actor, that even if there is something that I'm not convinced with, I'll go with him.
Sure.
You know, because I somewhere feel that his unpredictability, his, you know, at times he thinks that he is following a stereotypical path. But you'll be surprised. You'll always wonder why Anurag thinks that he's going, you know, a beaten path. But this is so, you know, not so stereotypical. Why he's thinking that way? In his mind, he thinks that in his mind, he was thinking that he was making a commercial cinema.
Yeah.
When he was making Gangs of Wasseypur. But for me, part one is nowhere close to any commercial cinema. You know, the story is happening on so many levels, and that is why it is termed classic.
The reason I mentioned Gangs specifically is because when I compare it to Aligarh, and I'd say that those two films are the ones that you've received most praise for in the last 10 years, I'd say. When I compare the two, they are so different, and the vulnerability you have as a character in Aligarh, that kind of innocence, you want to protect you want you to gain justice, all these emotions that run through the audience's mind when they watch that film are not easy emotions to display.
Yeah.
You know, did you feel a certain amount of responsibility to the LGBTQ community in India when you took that role on? I mean,
I felt one responsibility a great deal, and that was not to make him effeminate.
Right.
Yeah. That was something I never wanted to do, ever. Because some of my teachers have been gays. Some of my friends have always been gays. I shared few of my moments with so many gay friends of mine, and they have contributed so much to my career, so much to my life. So that is one thing I was very sure about. And if there is any kind of effeminate behavior, even a little bit, that is intentional, and that is there only that much, just to give an idea, and nothing much. I wanted to, focus on his love for literature, love for language, his love for Lata Mangeshkar, singing, and love for whiskey.
How did you build that vulnerability though? Because he is a vulnerable character.
He is. I mean, somebody who believes in the purity of love is always vulnerable. You know, the angst is of a different kind. The angst is about not being left alone. His angst is just that, and he's just a pure guy. He's a pure guy. No, doesn't hate anybody. He's a peace-loving person. When he's fighting his court case, can you believe that was the moment? For me, that is the best moment that I could crack. When I told Hansal Mehta that, can I just go off to sleep when the argument is going on? And he just jumped up. You know, he said, yes, that will be amazing, because this is what he is. You know, for him, that whole chaos, that whole legality is something that he doesn't feel he belongs to.
Yeah.
He doesn't belong to the world of fighting. He's a reluctant fighter. He doesn't want to be there in the court. Rather, he would like to be, locked inside his own flat, having his whiskey, listening to Lata Mangeshkar, writing his own poetry and literature. This is what Professor Sirus is all about. And these are the areas that I have worked on.
Manoj, I could talk to you for hours, but I'm being told we have to wrap up soon. So I'm just going to give you a couple of other questions that I really want to know about. If we look at Aligarh and the love and the warmth you received for that role, and you know that you have so much talent, and I've never seen somebody so passionate about their craft. How do you then convince yourself that like a Baaghi 2 will add to your career? Because you're very, very good in it. But it's such a different spectrum of cinema again.
You see, I've done this film. It was my way of saying thank you to Ahmed Khan.
Okay.
He called me up and said that, and Ahmed Khan is somebody who's choreographed Sapne Milti Hai, that cult song from Satya. So both of us used to be very young, and we've always known each other. Had great, high respect for it was a mutual respect for each other. And when he called me up and said, Manoj, I want you to be part of this film of mine. Please come. And that's all I wanted to. That was enough for me. Sometime when you are 24 years of career, you make so many friends from different areas of the filmmaking. And there are times you do films just for friends.
Yeah.
Just for other reasons, but the creative, And I've done this film purely because of my friendship. Purely, it was a kind of thank you gesture to Ahmed. And he took very good care of me on the set.
And he's made you look really good on screen as well. You've done very, very well in the whole film. Now, we are here, of course, for the London Indian Film Festival. Your film, Love, Sonia, premiered last night in Leicester Square. And I thought you were just fantastic in it. It's one of your best performances, in my opinion. But you're also going to be premiering your film In the Shadows at the London Indian Film Festival, which has a completely different theme and topic, and it's about a man stuck in a concrete jungle of sorts. Tell me a bit about that film.
Oh, you must see that film.
I will.
When it comes to evolving as an actor, when it comes to finding a new way of performing any role, I think this is where I have come to. When I saw the film, I said, yes, Manoj Bajpayee, whatever you're doing it just right. When I'm a very big critic, to answer your last question, when you were talking about the critics and the reviewers, I'm a very, very critic of myself. I hate to see my films because most of the times I'm only looking at the mistakes that I have done in terms of the speech or in terms of my movement, in terms of the pauses, in terms of the characterization. I'm always cursing myself for not being able to gauge that when I was performing it. But this is a film where I felt I'm so right in 80% part of it. And this is the biggest percentage I could give it to myself. I think it's purely an achievement when I look at it as an actor, that I could pull off such a hugely difficult task on a screen. So I would really request you to be part of the audience member tonight.
I would love to.
If you could. It's a film which has done wonders in all the festivals. It has won best films in many festivals. It was
at the Busan Film Festival as well.
Yeah, it was at Busan, Dubai, everywhere, Chicago. And I got Best Actor this year in New York Indian Film Festival. So, yes, this is a very special film for me. and I would love all the London people, all the people who are interested in independent cinema and how they are doing, how they are struggling to make a mark not only in India but also outside India. They should come and watch the achievement or the genius of this new filmmaker called Dipesh Jain.